Perfect.
A cold open in this economy? We don't have the cap space for a cold open. No, like, really, I mean, none of us could possibly afford a cold open. The economy and all. It's only weird games and only news, wire to wire here today. We have shrunk down the rundown to be in finer point font. We are all here ready to go, and the things that felt like they would have been news cycle changing news a few days ago are in the rearview mirror with several more news items coming since then. The legal tampering, it's happening left and right, folks. Contracts getting signed the moments windows are opening. There are new Chiefs, there are former Chiefs, and there is about an hour of time for us to get through as much of it as we possibly can. Joshua Brisco, Seth Keysor, and Nate Taylor here with you for what I genuinely think is one of the more important shows of the year. Some people are about to learn a new thing or two about the new Kansas City Chiefs left tackle. We're about to learn a thing or two about how we all feel about Nick Bolton being around for at least a couple more seasons, the wide receivers' ups and downs of this weekend, and a little more shuffling from a few different corners. Plus, breaking news in the secondary today in Christian Fulton. We'll go largely, I think, kind of order of importance, Nate. But what have your last couple of days been like as you take a swig of what I imagine is today's 17th cup of coffee?
Gotta stay caffeinated. It's been I understand where the team is going. I think I have a general good idea in terms of of reading what is said and what is not said, what is inferred and what we've learned so far. Um, you know, they had, and I said this on the breaking news team with the aftermath of Ronnie Staley, with the addition, obviously, of Jaylen Moore, that they believe this was the best option they could have moving forward. I know some people said, well, does the Ronnie Stanley signing or it not happening, how much of effect did that have on Nick Bolton? And I would say it had a decent amount of effect because had Roddy Stanley gotten to actual free agency on Monday, there would have been a level of bidding war where you would have to have maybe gone beyond what you anticipated or what you planned for. And so Ronnie Stanley going back to Baltimore put the Chiefs in a situation where, okay, what is the best plan B for us in terms of health, durability, a player that we know can play the position competently, and maybe in our system can even develop more because we will give him, yes, because we will give him more.
Seth's late on Big Bob. I don't understand why.
It's okay. It's
Listen,
okay.
Seth, Robert Tonyan is back, and I did almost make that the cold open. But if you don't remember his incredible stint on the Chiefs practice squad last year, I would understand.
Damn, what are we doing? Yeah.
March 11th, Robert Tonyan.
On a Tuesday. But yeah, what I was trying to say is like, okay, maybe Jaylen Moore can grow in the system. He's played left tackle. He's obviously learned from Trent Williams, and we know he can play the position competently, which is all you're asking, or that's at least where you're starting in terms of the improvement at one of the more important positions on the roster. When it comes to Nick Bolton, it's okay. We can engage with him because the belief is you are going to sign Trey Smith to a long-term extension, so you can work those two contracts in concert with one another.
Clock's ticking, by the way.
Right. They have tomorrow. They have tomorrow and maybe even Thursday is my understanding too. Like, they can still be cap compliant by Wednesday or tomorrow. And even Thursday might be a chance where, hey, you go through every detail one more time before you have the extension or before you think the extension can be agreed upon, essentially. But you can work those two contracts in concert with one another. And as we talked about before, you're seeing a clear philosophy that I think is easy to understand and is worthy, which is the Chiefs have a lot of good players, similar to the Philadelphia Eagles. Some of those players are gone. You're going to have to salute some of those guys because you're trying to move forward, but also not overpay for someone who is getting older, whose skills might deteriorate over time, who might not be able to help you, not just in 2025, but might not be able to help you in 2026. So, again, even though Joe Tooney, as Seth said, is the better player right now, the Chiefs chose the younger player in Trey Smith. Even though Justin Reed had an excellent season last year, they chose the younger player in Nick Bolton. So these are the decisions they've made, and you can try to understand them. I know that Justin Reed did not want to leave Kansas City, did not want to. Okay. And so what he experienced over the last 3 to 4 days is the same thing that Tyrann Mathieu experienced. And that is a team saying, we gave you a deal, we maximized the value for one another, and now it's time for you to pursue your career elsewhere. Because, as I've said before on this show, there's a lot of belief in the Chiefs that Jaden Hicks can be a very, very good player in their system. And it's so interesting that one of the first players that noticed that in the preseason last year was Tyrann Mathieu. And at the same time, Justin Reed follows Tyrann Mathieu, and they all get to play together in New Orleans. The Chiefs have always chosen, not always, but for the most part, they've chosen right now in the last 2 to 3 off seasons to choose the younger player, even if the better player is older and there's a little bit of a difference in terms of importance and all that. So I hope that makes sense. As I said before, they wanted to retain Hollywood Brown. He was the only receiver that they were going to prioritize early. They did that. He has signed his contract today, which is similarly the same from last year. I think early in this or late in the season last year when he came back in December, I said maybe they could bump up $1 million or $2 million because you just know the salary cap's going to go up. But they actually stay pretty similar to contracts. So that is in essence a win, and that is some loyalty that Hollywood Brown extended to the franchise, and the franchise appreciates that and hopes that he can meet more of those incentives than he had the chance to meet last year. So again, those are how the negotiations work. I'm trying to think if there's another thing in my mind before I get to some slightly interesting news. You're gonna ask me, ladies and gentlemen, did the Chiefs call about what's his name? The
Laramie Tunsil, yeah.
You're gonna ask me,
ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry about it, everybody. I did have that one covered for you.
Yeah, you're gonna ask me, ladies and gentlemen, did the Chiefs reach out about Laramie Tunsil and Mr. Cross in Seattle?
Mm-hmm.
Say his first name again.
Charles
Cross. Seattle's not trading Charles Cross. And as I explained to these gentlemen in text messages and not on a recorded podcast, I don't think teams, and particularly in the AFC, especially what happened to Buffalo, are just eager to trade with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Buffalo did the right thing. This is my hottest take that I'm not going to spend the rest of the show defending.
Give me one reason. Give me one reason why it was the right thing Buffalo
It was
did.
the right process. It was the right process. Should they have taken Keon Coleman where they traded back? Should they have just taken the guy earlier and not gotten an extra pick out of it? You afraid of the narratives? Go ahead and take Keon Coleman however many picks before you actually need to, just so you don't have to trade with the Chiefs? Coward stuff.
You could have taken Keon Coleman where you were.
Yeah, and then not gotten better draft positioning later on. I'm not a coward, so I would have made that trade if I was Buffalo.
Okay.
They did the right thing.
In theory, yes. But context matters. Who you're trading with matters. Because
what you get back matters. The return matters.
True, I understand that, but you cannot. And again, this is Houston's thought process. Why would we?
CJ Stroud's going to be on his back regardless.
Well,
it doesn't matter where you sit Laramie Tunsil.
I agree with you, but again, I'm trying to inform our audience, Josh, that maybe some teams are not thrilled when Kansas City calls, or when they call Kansas City, understanding there's been a track record. So they traded him to a different conference for more picks, which makes sense per Josh Briscoe's line of
Better
general
picks.
managing.
Better picks. Better picks.
I didn't say better.
You sure
I said
didn't.
more.
You sure
picks.
didn't. So I wouldn't attribute it to me then.
More picks. Okay. Washington was willing to give up the most picks for Laramie Tunsil. That's how that deal got put together. Somebody asked me about Detroit with Decker, Taylor Decker.
Mm-hmm.
I if he was available, we probably should have known it by now, or they probably should have moved on it. I don't know, but I don't get the sense that there was any real traction with Taylor Decker either. So hopefully that better informs everybody as to why the Chiefs made the decision to get, again, someone who they think is underrated and an ascending player who they think can grow in their scheme, grow with Patrick Mahomes in Jaylen Moore. And everybody should start watching tape of Gardner Minshew.
God, that makes me so happy in my loins. Ugh. I would love Nate, I've never stopped watching tape of Gardner Minshew.
Okay.
Putting him off to the side here, Seth. Is that what they're getting out of Jaylen Moore? You've already got the film review up in the Chiefs of the North newsletter, mnchiefsfan.substack.com. Jaylen Moore, it's 2 years, $30 million, $21.4 million guaranteed. So this is a short-term fix for the Chiefs. We can kind of talk about what the logic of all that is as we go on, but I think, inarguably, he is the second Moore from Western Michigan who's going to keep this dynasty rolling here in Kansas City. So what did you see from Jaylen Moore, the other former Bronco? College. He was a Niner before that.
Yes.
Niner in the NFL.
I was just waiting because it's been 11 minutes and 49 seconds and I haven't talked yet.
I'm sorry.
And it would have been extremely funny.
No, I was trying to explain news. I'm sorry.
No, Nate, that's not a condemnation of you. It just would have been extremely funny for you to go to break as I took a breath. So I was waiting.
Oh, man, we should have actually. Yeah, you're clear, but yeah, we should have. I'll do it after you talk about Jaylen Moore.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.
Tucker and I know that if we're not on the same page today, and we weren't there, Tucker did the right thing. If Tucker and I aren't on the same page today, we are not getting halfway down this rundown. And it is important to me that we get to the bottom of this rundown.
Yes.
So Jaylen Moore, Seth, we don't need to take another break for a while.
So, as is my general policy, I guess, when the Chiefs acquire a new player who's clearly going to be given a starting role, I, go review some film. Jaylen Moore, he started 4 games last year, 4 in a row, which is important because when you get to that 3rd and 4th game, was when things start to change a little bit.
Yes.
Because that's when teams are watching more and more of you. And another thing that separates Jaylen Moore, so he's been Trent Williams' backup for years. But he has started at least 2 games. I think 2 years, 3, and then maybe 3 again, or maybe 4. I don't remember. It was 4 last year. And so he has started games every year in the league, which is important.
12 starts over 4 years, at least 2 every year.
Yes,
so there's some film there in advance, but every year, players change and that kind of stuff. I love that. Just to give some context to the film review, his last game was against the Rams, who have a pair of good pass rushers on the edge. One in particular in Jared Verse. Their other pass rusher, he wears 0. I can't remember. I don't know anything about the Rams, by the way. I found that out when I was reviewing their film. I was like, I don't know
who's that guy?
I don't know the name of a single guy on this defense besides Jared Verse. Like, I know shockingly little about the Rams. That, I don't know. There's just some teams.
They're all young guys.
There's just some teams also that just fly totally under your radar, especially in the NFC. So, anyway, Byron Smith, it doesn't matter. Anyway.
Sure.
His toughest opponents were his first and last opponents, because you got Green Bay, they've got a couple of decent edge rushers, and then you've got the Rams, they've got a couple of decent rushers, with one of them being very good. Importantly, Jared Verse, the type of pass rusher that's got a lot of power, a lot of length, and his tendency, although he can corner too. That guy can corner well for a guy that plays the way he plays. He will run right through your chest. Now, where have we heard that line before? And for purposes of speeding things along and not doing bits, that's right. We heard it a bunch before the Super Bowl and after the Super Bowl. Byron Young, thank you, Lucas. Oh, great name. That's my youngest son's name in the comments. Byron Young's the other pass rusher, solid edge rusher, not great against the run. So, he'd never see the light of day on the Chiefs defense, but solid pass rusher. So the Jared Verse is the type of guy that gave the Chiefs fits last year once Tooney took over. And then pretty much everyone gave them fits before that. Once Morris got hurt and all that fun stuff. So what I did, looked at every snap of the 4 games that he started, and charted every snap for wins, for losses, for neutral plays as both a pass blocker and a run blocker. That's what I always do. And so it was interesting because people I respect have varying opinions on Jaylen Moore.
Mm-hmm.
I know that our friends at the lab, at least Maddie Lane, was a little lukewarm on him before all this went down. I don't know what he had to say yesterday. I should probably watch other people's content, but I don't. So
I helped him understand why the Chiefs came to this conclusion, to which I think he understood
that thing. Oh,
to which he understood, but also, I understand the hesitation of hiring someone's backup to be your starter. So, yes, there's a good pull and push of those thought process where I think Matt wants to see a little bit more, and that's understandable. But does he have the tools and the traits, Seth, to potentially be a
Kingsley Suamataia has the tools and the traits.
Well, so I can't help you with that. He's playing another position.
The difference between Suamataia and Jaylen Moore is the film
one of them got a third start.
Yeah, maybe that's when it would have all clicked for the guy. So here's the deal with Moore. Maddie was a little lukewarm on him. Brandon Thorne of the Trench Warfare Substack likes him, thinks he's got a solid floor with not a huge upside, but some upside. Mm-hmm. So I've watched him. And Nate Dogg in the comments, can he play above dumpster fire?
Yes, great question.
So I reviewed all 4 of his starts, and besides just looking for win percentage, loss percentage, all that stuff, I also take a look at pressures, hits, and sacks given up. So here's one thing I would tell you: 4 games, including 2 against teams with good edge rushers, no sacks given up, 1 quarterback hit, 9 pressures by my charting. And I was honestly a little stingy with a couple of those pressures because that's just how I try to do to avoid bias. I end up with a 9.7% loss percentage. His worst game, ironically, was, well, not ironically, that's not what ironic means, but it's ironic that I thought that it was ironic, I think. Anyway, his worst game was against Chicago, which is interesting because they are a pretty low-level opponent. Other than that, he played pretty well against the Packers, against the Bills, and against the Rams. And he, again, 9 pressures in 4 games, 1 sack. Something worth noting, San Francisco's scheme, gives some advantages. They got a lot of play action type stuff. The ball comes out pretty quickly. Kyle Shanahan is always, he's always got, he's always trying to help his line and his quarterback in that sense. But that said, if you compare, and I was trying to think of a way to explain this to people. When I was talking about Joe Tooney's time at left tackle prior to the Super Bowl, and I was like the one raising my hand after the Buffalo game where the offense maybe had its best game of the year, and everyone was like, Tooney's playing lights out. And I was like, guys, I'm scared. And not because Tooney isn't a great player, because he is, but because I saw the way the offense was having to drastically change in order to account, basically never leaving him in pure pass sets one-on-one. That was not Jaylen Moore's life. And when you think about it, that would make sense because San Francisco's offense is predicated around having... It wasn't
Kingsley Suamata'ia's life either in college.
That's correct. And they tried it in the pros, and it went disastrously. Here's the difference.
So far, so good. Seth, give me the hard sell.
With Jaylen Moore, they let him be one-on-one on an island on multiple snaps every game, and it went fine. He was not someone that was dragging them down. Whether it was Verse, whoever it was up against, he consistently held his own. He played pretty solidly. He doesn't have, I like the way Thorne phrased this, he doesn't have any overwhelming traits. He's a solid athlete, but he's not a great one. He's got solid anchor and upper body power, but it's not overwhelming, right? It's not Trent Williams. It's not Lane Johnson. But here's the thing. His feet are good, not incredible, but they're pretty good. His bounce, and this is actually, his bounce, I would say, is really good. He almost never loses his footing. He doesn't end up, he occasionally gets caught lunging in the run game a little bit, but he doesn't get off bounce when someone goes from power to speed. And you always hear speed to power in the pass rush game. But the problem that Suamataia had and the problem Morris had was when players went from power to speed. When they start with a bull rush, and Suamataia as well as Morris could hold their own against that because they're big dudes, long arms. And then, okay, well, I'm gonna convert from this power to speed. I'm gonna swipe at your hands. I'm gonna try to turn the corner. And Morris couldn't handle it, right? That's the Patrick Mahomes famously, it's the same bleeping move, right? Suamataia couldn't handle it. Moore can handle it. And he can handle it with good players too. It's not perfect, but he consistently dies a slow death, even against good rushes. You consistently can say 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, and start to get to 4 before there's anything resembling real pressure on the quarterback, even on his not as good snaps. He doesn't take a ton of vertical pass sets the way that we got used to seeing Chiefs players do last year. I think you're going to see a return to horizontal pass sets, and that meaning that at the snap, he's moving horizontally to try to get hands-on. Think a little more Donovan Smith, honestly.
Hey.
Trying to win in that way by getting hands-on and utilizing his power. He's got shorter arms, not as short as Tooney, but they're 33 and a half inches. But the difference is he's got good size, he's got good upper body power, and he can anchor. He did not once get bull rush back into his quarterback. And he played, Rashawn Gary is a big, strong guy, loves to rush that way. Jared Verse rushes that way. Lucas Van Ness isn't a great pass rusher, but he's got a lot of length and power. He is able to anchor against those bull rushes, and he is able to direct guys wide around the edge when they convert that power to speed. I don't know what his ceiling is, but if his floor is what it was last year, it will be a massive upgrade over what the Chiefs had last season, which generally wouldn't be saying a ton.
Right.
I would also say people have also asked, well, what about Donovan Smith's 2023? The problem with Donovan Smith's 2023, he played generally okay overall, but when he lost, it was quick. And part of that, I think he was playing a little bit hurt. That
He was.
Right. And so that never happens with Moore. I didn't see one instant loss. He had a couple times guys got the corner on him and he had a couple of tough snaps, but it was never this like instant right into the quarterback's lap or right around the edge, nothing like that. And what I think is you've got a situation here where you've got a guy who he doesn't have an overwhelming trait, which may limit his ceiling, but having good power, upper and lower body, because those are two different things, right? One's your punch, one is your anchor. Essentially, having both of those be solid, having solid enough athleticism, he can climb to the second level, he can do some of those things. And then having bounce with all that actually gives you a decent ceiling, maybe not an elite one, but you have the ceiling to be a very good left tackle that way, provided you continue to pull all that together. I was more impressed than I thought I would be. I thought he was a above average left tackle on film. Man, give me above average all day. And then he's got this 1 year to maybe 2 year tryouts to figure out, okay, are you above average or was that just San Fran's system and coaching? Okay, you're above average. Are you more? Because even above average with what the Chiefs have seen the last few years is going to get him paid by the Chiefs.
He is more.
I don't know why I just walked right into that.
Quick hitter on it, Nate, because we got to catch up here on the rest of the moves. We'll spend more time on. I don't imagine there's going to be a whole lot of news tomorrow. We'll spend a lot of time on Thursday going another level deeper on some of these deals.
Shout out to Ben Neiman, 2 years, $6.5 million to
Nick
the
Neiman.
Houston. I don't know what they're doing, Texans.
Nick Neiman. Nick Neiman. Ben Neiman would be. Even
more Ben Neiman's still in Detroit. Is that right?
I don't know.
Neimans.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, no, this is everything Seth said is good. One of the things I loved about Seth's article in the Chief of the North newsletter was
That everyone should read.
Is the ideal pass set for Moore, where he actually attacks the pass rusher on the end. He doesn't vertically set and pray to the Lord.
Genuine question. Who's the last Chiefs tackle who played that way?
Great question.
Mitch Schwartz was always vertical. Eric Fisher took a little more of those horizontal sets, although he was pretty vertical too. Probably Orlando Brown in terms of left tackle, because Jawan Taylor is vertical sets all day. Right. Orlando Brown was at his best taking those aggressive, either that straight to the side or that 45 set, because I mean he just didn't move that well the other way. So I definitely think it's a bit of a change. I also think, honestly, it's a better fit with Mahomes. Mahomes is at his best when he's got a horizontal pocket where there's space wide, right? Not where he's being asked to step up into a more confined space. So I think it's a better fit with Mahomes' play style. They just need to figure out depths, because when he does start to get beat, okay, where does he send him? Mahomes needs to learn the timing of that and when to step forward. I like this film. I was pleasantly surprised. Maddie had me real worried. If he plays at the same level that he did, and this is where the question mark becomes, because with DJ Humphries, it was last year, it was like, well, if he plays at the same level he did 2023, you're going to be set. And then he got hurt and nothing else happened. This guy's a lot younger. If he plays at that exact level and is able to be isolated one-on-one that exact amount of time, it will be a massive upgrade for the Chiefs at left tackle, and they'll be in a situation where they can really actually operate their entire offense.
Yeah. The best case scenario for the Chiefs is they were a year early with someone who had yet to be given full starter responsibilities, and based on his age, his athleticism, if he plays well in a tryout for 17, who knows, 20 to 21 games, then actually you were ahead of what he would have been from a compensation level, to where you can even use that second year if you don't get to a great place in terms of contract negotiations for an extension. So it's a way to mitigate yourself. It's a way to get out of it, while also having a decent amount of dead money if you got to move on. But the great hope is, and I know this doesn't mean a lot, because he will have to prove it. Is there anyone else you would want a player to spend 4 years with? And I just play excellent when I'm healthy, Trent Williams. So,
in everything except for contract negotiations, maybe, because that dude has successfully made a lot of money.
He has made a lot of money because he's really talented, and he knows how important it is to play his position at such a high level. So that is the belief from the Chiefs in terms of him. I'm fascinated to see what Jaylen will say to us in a couple days, hopefully, once he signs his contract. Today's move was a bit of a surprise, so you can move down Tucker. Because...
I don't need to be here. That's awesome.
Oh, dang it! I always want to give Tucker the credit. I mean,
no. Tucker hits the buttons. I usually introduce the other thing that happened today, just in case anybody wasn't on Twitter. I'll be over here. I'll be backstage.
You said we had to move on quickly, and I'm trying my best. Okay, I'm trying to give the people what they want. All right.
The people demand more of Josh.
Sorry, Seth. Is Christian Fuller? I guess I'll ask the audience. Is Christian Fuller better than Jaylen?
Nate, if you're not going to say his name right, I'm going to go ahead and host. Actually, the news today is that the Kansas City Chiefs added Christian Fulton to the secondary, spending some money on the cornerback position. 2 years, $20 million, $15 million guaranteed. I think he automatically jumps the line there to be the second best cornerback on this team. And I'll tell you, fellas, this is the move of the offseason so far that I am the most excited by.
Good.
This one, there are moves that may be good, that may be necessary. This one is fun to me.
Yes. Now, I just want to remind people, there was a game on Black Friday that kind of gets overshadowed because that was the first time Patrick Mahomes benched a teammate. But what gets lost in that is there was a game on Black Friday against the Raiders where Steve Spagnuolo yanked anybody playing cornerback not named Trip McDuffie.
Yes.
You get out. You get in. Actually, nope. Keith Taylor, you get in. Nope. I guess I got to put Najee. Najee, get back in there. Actually, no. You, Joshua Williams, stay. And
now we're in the red zone. Taylor, get back in there.
Taylor, get back in there. And that's why they made this decision today. Because Steve Spagnuolo would like to live a life where he doesn't have to, play Russian roulette with his cornerback position. And so the question I would ask everybody, Seth, Josh, the audience, is Christian Fulton better than Jaylen Watson?
The Chiefs are telling you they sure think so, right? I mean, here's I'll give you, this is the only player of the day that I want to make a take on. Oh, I don't like the face Seth just made. It's bad news. I don't know if it's Twitter or
my
personal life.
son did his Taekwondo test today and I missed it. We didn't know he was taking it. So please move on. That's just me failing as a dad.
I'll go ahead and actually, if he was going to go through this in the full screen
Are
mode,
you
Seth.
serious? You're such a bad friend. Holy crap.
Yeah, it takes one to know one.
So
Christian Fulton is the most fun signing here because of what the dominoes of this move could be.
Right.
So here's where I'm at, Nate. And let's say that he and Jaylen Watson are incredibly similar players.
Sure.
Pre-injury, Jaylen Watson was on fire.
Correct.
I'd pay 2 years, $20 million for Jaylen Watson pre-injury last year. That he's worth that.
Sure.
You need 3 good cornerbacks in the NFL.
Correct.
Jaylen Watson is now, in my mind, an overqualified CB3. He's going to play 75% of the snaps without there being an injury.
Yep.
That's all great. Here's what I'm electric about today. Christian Fulton is an outside corner.
Yes,
Jaylen Watson is an outside corner.
Yes, he
Trent
is.
McDuffie is the best slot cover player in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
If Fulton can be pre-injury 2024 Jaylen Watson, this is suddenly an excellent cornerback room. And the safety room gets better because Shamari Connor gets his ass out of the slot and back to safety where he is a really good player as opposed to the slot where he is Chris Roland Wallace.
Yes.
This improves 2 position groups in a really big way. I am so excited about it that I feel a little bit foolish for not having spent any brain power before today on, is there a corner coming up might fit in?
Yeah, they were pretty quiet on this. I'll give them credit. They were pretty quiet on this. And if you know who your safeties are, then you only have one roster need in that secondary. And they filled it today. And it also doesn't preclude them for maybe drafting the best player available. And I don't know, the 4th, 5th, 6th round, where they will once again probably find somewhere below the Mason-Dixie line who can learn from Trent McDuffie and Christian Fulton and, Brian Cook. So if you know who's in the safety room for 2026, in 2025, you kind of have an idea that this was something that they felt was necessary once they retained Nick Bolton. Josh, how old is Christian Fulton?
I know he was drafted in 2020 because when the Chiefs were on the clock, Tyrann Mathieu tweeted a purple and yellow heart emoji side by side, and I was excited. I started writing a story about the Chiefs drafting Christian Fulton at 32 overall, and then they did not do that.
No, they didn't.
It was a different purple and yellow heart.
I'm sorry, what?
Different purple and yellow hearts from Tyrann Mathieu. Different tiger.
A different kind. Okay, got it.
Yeah. 26 for Christian Fulton, by the way.
Interesting you say that. Last things, ladies and gentlemen. There is one prerequisite to play cornerback in Steve Spagnuolo's system. What is it, Seth?
Yeah, you got to tackle.
You got to bleeping tackle.
Marshawn Lynch, run through a mother bleeper's face. That's the prerequisite.
Give me the stat, Josh. How many tackles did Christian Fulton have last season playing the majority of the snaps on the perimeter for the Los Angeles Chargers?
Just close the tab, man.
It's 51. It's okay.
Thank you. Wow, 51 from the
51
outside. Thanks, Nate. I
tackles.
didn't get the page open very quickly. My typing fingers were not working.
I can't.
Are you also electric? Have you? I don't want to use any taser metaphors here. I ejected because I don't want to get any taser conversations near any of these LSU players from 2020. Seth, you started singing when I started explaining the Trent McDuffie move of it all.
I did.
Where are you on the Christian Fulton deal?
Well,
I'm tickled.
You know,
I sure hope he's good.
Yeah. No, yeah, if he comes and he's let's just say if a corner comes to Kansas City to be coached by Dave Merritt and Steve Spagnuolo and becomes worse, it will be the first time that's happened. Right?
Yeah.
Like, can you think of a player that came here and was like worse?
I have an idea. I have an idea. And he just got paid by the Atlanta Falcons.
Which one?
Someone thought it was a smart idea, and I mean this respectfully. But this is one of those contracts today that I said, "Oh no, we're out of phase 1, boys. We're into phase 2."
Antonio Hamilton?
Mike Hughes.
Oh, right.
What? Why that's the Antonio Hamilton's name
Well,
here too?
Mike Hughes didn't get he got paid big bucks.
He was bad, guys.
Yeah, and so Mike Hughes, but he didn't get worse here because let me tell you, as someone who lives in Minnesota, he wasn't good in Minnesota either. So
Mike Hughes, the most hit or miss cornerback of the decade,
yes.
somehow got 3 years, $18 million by the Atlanta Falcons.
Which
why?
Once
You can
again goes
draft
to
a
show that you're
quarterback.
better off being inconsistent with flashes of great and terrible play than just being average. So here's the reason I started singing. And if people didn't recognize that beautiful rendition of "Gone at Last," a wonderful old hymn, although it's a little snazzy, you know, I mean, it's a little upbeat. Like if you can clap on the offbeat, is it even a hymn? Anyway, so
No.
I wasn't clapping about getting Shamari Connor off the field. I like Shamari Connor as a safety, as a box safety, not a big slot corner. None of that crap. It's not where he's at his best. He would get isolated on receivers and just worked over. And of course he did because he's a safety. And they were desperate to try to figure out anyone who could play in the slot because they didn't have 3 corners. It's because Spags would not let Josh Williams drive his car around the block. And I don't think that's fair. But I assume, I'm sure there's reasons for it. But he's like, Josh Williams will come in, make a few plays, and then you just know he did something. And Spags like, no, get out.
Get out.
Get off the
come
field.
Back, come back. Now, what was you thinking there, son?
Go stand by Dave Tope.
Yeah. And so go stand by Dave Tobe. Dave's like, but he's just gonna get a penalty, man.
No, it's a whole go ask mom, go ask dad thing of him like, can I go in? And like, yeah, go ask Dave. Like, you know what? I think we're go ask Steve.
Yeah. So
this
the
is
great
also a pro Joshua Williams podcast.
Of course.
Yes, I like Josh Williams.
Yes.
I think he should have played the vast majority of the cornerback 3 snaps.
But
But
they
here's
had to find out what they had in Najee Johnson, which has led them to the conclusion we need to go get Christian Fulton.
if
now.
only there were other times they could watch these guys do football things.
I do have.
Come on.
Alas, beans. There's no other time.
Hey, we got to set them up in November with Najee Johnson and Shamari Connor out of position so that we can hammer them in the AFC Championship game.
I have one, really 2 pieces of earth-shattering Kansas City Chiefs
I'm sorry,
news.
Seth, come on.
Earth-shattering Chiefs news
They
does
did
nothing
that.
for Nate.
They literally did it. It got away.
I need like a firecracker or something to be like news. 2 extra 7th-round picks this year. Compensatory formula picks just came out.
Ooh, pretty
Hey.
good. You pack
So-
those 2 things together, you might get a 6th-round pick.
You
Get a few more of
can
those.
trade those again. By the way, that they changed that rule a year or 2 ago that you
Yes.
can actually trade compensatory picks now. So 251 and Mr. Irrelevant, it looks like 257. both going to the Chiefs.
257. Now you got to keep 257. Come on now.
Yeah, you gotta keep that.
So
Zach Eisen just tweeted 2 7ths, 2 starting corners.
yeah, no kidding. So the great news here, there's multiple things that are great news here, and I have not reviewed any of Christian Fulton's film yet. I don't know a ton about him. I know he's not afraid to tackle, which makes him a fit with Spags, which is great. He's a boundary corner. I know that. I know he's at his best in zone. Those are the things I know. Here's the Josh, what you said is perfect. Trent
Let's take a
McDuffie's
break.
Oh. Yes! Ah!
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story. Like Bryan Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Bryan Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Sorry, Tucker, I led you too much on that one. It wasn't a great ball by me, but I hear those words so infrequently. I wanted to have a few more minutes to really luxuriate in them before Seth takes it back. Back to you, Seth.
Absolutely. That was one of those moments, man. You got too excited and you sent that alley-oop into the 12th row. It was just like that thing. Wemby couldn't have caught that.
Well, listen, I haven't been working for Matt Nagy. I still enjoy taking a deep shot every once in a while. So,
and so
I don't even think it's his fault.
we need one of those things
So
where
unnecessary.
you can make the noises, like, they push the button on terrestrial radio and it like goes wah wah or whatever.
Yeah, Seth, you want that? You want me to have that power? Because I'm getting closer to having that power, and you have not enjoyed it when I've given you that power. What did I say that was perfect?
Put them full screen, baby. Yeah.
The power demonstrated. So the thing that Josh said that was extremely perfect is that, and yeah, now it's
whoa, Tucker,
perfect.
why are you here? Get out of here, Tucker! But no, hey, get out of here! Get out of here, man!
Good Lord. And so
sorry, I didn't even know you were like live like that. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, that was
really glad that was all that was. Sorry,
Thank
Tucker.
God his shirt was on.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I knew it
what
was.
does Tucker really do while we're recording?
How good do you think this show is, Seth?
I think it's that good.
It's not that good.
Tucker jump scare Rachel in the comments. That's awesome. So again, what Josh said that was extraordinarily, exquisitely, unbelievably correct. One of the things that made me admire him, not just as a football analyst and sports radio host, but as a person and a human. The idea that, so Trent McDuffie is going to be on the field 100% of the snaps. We know this. We know he's going to be playing on the boundary when there's two corners on the field. Last year, they kind of went away from having him in the slot, in part because they didn't have anyone that they really trusted, especially once Jaylen Watson went down with an injury. Then it was like, we don't have anyone we really trust. Right. Now they've got three corners they trust. And now, I'm not expecting for Christian Fulton or Jaylen Watson to come in and play at 2023 L'Jarius Sneed levels. That's not fair. Sneed was awesome that year. But we just talked about, like 2 weeks ago, how a really underrated aspect of that defense was the fact that they went 3 deep. They really went 4 deep because Williams is the fourth corner. They trusted him more because it was really specific jobs. But they went 3 deep with, we can run whatever coverage we want. We trust our guys to do this well against any matchup, and it helped the pass rush look better. One of the reasons the pass rush didn't look as good last year as it did in 2023 is because the coverage wasn't as good. That's just part of it. And now, because of the specific way the Chiefs defense is set up, you can slide McDuffie inside and have him help cover some of the other questionable areas in the middle of the field while you let Fulton and Watson be competent, good boundary corners. If you get Fulton to play at the same level that Jaylen Watson played at in 2023 or last year, you are cooking with gas, because that means each team has to say, well, we know we need our stars to do something because our third receiver is up against a legit starting corner, and third receivers aren't usually built for that. So that's a huge, huge, huge thing in both the numbers game as well as the schematic game. And a final aspect of that to think about is it also improves CB4. It really is across the board an improvement, and it's a good signing.
And CB4 might not even be on the roster yet.
I bet he's probably not, which is exciting. Knowing they can
deserves better.
Well, yeah, he does. And as a New Orleans Saint next year, he can have it. Let's talk about another superstar that's paid like a superstar. Seth, let's talk about Nick Bolton here. Because you said on the breaking news team that you had gotten to a point where you expected this to happen. After the Trey Smith franchise tag and with the rest of the things that were going around, I did not expect this to happen. I wasn't 90-10, but I was leaning against the Chiefs bringing back Nick Bolton. They do it on a 3-year, $45 million deal. That is every bit of a 2-year, $30 million deal.
Correct.
Albert Breer said it's $15 million each year.
Yep.
And those first 2 years, it would be the 2 that are guaranteed. So
Yep.
It is a 2-year, $30 million deal for Nick Bolton. Nate, I'll let you do the Chiefs side of it. Seth, I would like for you to remember that last week you said you'd rather pay Tershawn Wharton than Nick Bolton, and I would like for you to talk about that. And then I'll play a little bit of space in between. Nate, what happened? How did we get here?
Yeah, because Ronnie Stanley's in Baltimore, this happens. Because you need to pick between him and Justin Reed, this happens. Because he's younger than Justin Reed, this happens. And also, it means that you don't have the biggest need at linebacker entering the draft. Last thing I'll say, and I've said this before, good linebacker draft.
Is it though?
You know what I'm saying now. You see what I'm putting down. Oh yeah, that peanut butter jelly gonna look good. Now look, does it? Just because there's not a, hey, no. We paid our starting linebacker. We paid Drew Tranquil last year. Yeah, we got Leo Chenal. Have you seen Leo Chenal? He's great. Don't put linebacker need on your board for us. Just don't do that. Don't do that. We already paid our guy. All right, we already paid our guy. Now maybe I'm saying things out of turn. I'm sorry, but I'm telling you that it's a good linebacker class, and that doesn't.
Wait, so they paid Nick Bolton so they can also draft a linebacker?
It doesn't
3D chess.
It doesn't preclude you from
most chess is
drafting a
3D.
linebacker. That's all I'm saying. Because
Oh,
they don't have 2 deep linebackers yet.
Very funny.
Who's their 2 deep linebacker? That's
Cole Christensen's back.
and that's about it. So
Willie Gay's available for a lot less.
true. I'm just saying. But look, you can do both. You can have head knocking music, and you could also produce sweet love music. Okay, you can do both.
You don't. Oh, you know what? Never mind.
Paying and drafting running backs does not put me in a lovemaking mood, or linebackers for that matter. Seth, I don't want to know how that impacts your love life, but I will point out here, Justin Reed's deal with the Saints is 3 years for 31.5. Bolton's is 3 years for 45, and really cut down to the guarantees of it all. 2 years, 22.25 for Justin Reed.
Correct.
2 years, 30 for Nick Bolton.
Correct.
You don't have to do the contract comp there, Seth, but what do you see from those numbers from Bolton, and how does that contract make you feel?
I in a vacuum, I would have preferred Justin Reed. If you got to keep, one of your quote unquote brains of the defense. And I just don't. It just is what it is, though. When you looked at who they had on the roster, when you looked at who they drafted, they didn't have a third linebacker. They did have a third safety. Sometimes it really is kind of that simple. And so it's not what I would have done. And we've talked about that before. And I know, in the breaking news team, Craig, who is great, he talked a lot about kind of the brains of the defense and the ability to, kind of make everything right on the field. I personally would push back with, I bet that you could, find someone else who's capable of doing that doesn't cost you $30 million over 2 years. But if losing Reed and Bolton in the same offseason is tougher, and I acknowledge that, it's just you bring with it physical limitations that are just there, and they're going to be problematic in matchup specific situations. That's just the way it is. You can't hide Nick Bolton on every snap in individual matchup situations. And that's where it does become complicated. You are going to see at some point this year on a pretty pivotal third down in some game, you're going to see some receiver underneath or some running back in the flat wide open. It's going to happen. Bolton's going to jump a route because he's aggressive in coverage like that. He tries to anticipate things, and he's just going to be gone, or he's going to get exposed in space. That's just going to happen. I wouldn't have paid more than about $8 or $9 million a year for what Nick Bolton does. I acknowledge I'm not in the room, and that just kind of is what it is. It would have been interesting to see when you look at what happened in the linebacker market. Linebackers kind of got paid a little more this year. You saw them getting snapped up. I'm sure they couldn't have retained Bolton for that. When it became reported correctly by Nate that Reed wasn't coming back to the Chiefs, that was when I was kind of like, okay, Bolton will be back. Because I just don't see Spags letting two guys like that walk in one offseason. I do think that having McDuffie in the slot can help with some of the issues that Bolton has in coverage. And it's an oversimplification to say he's bad in coverage and good against the run. He's actually pretty good, even real good at certain aspects of coverage. It's just there's a narrowed field there. So I kind of figured it was happening. It's not what I would have done personally. I think that it's pretty clear at this point, to me at least, what route they're going to be going in the draft, which will be like defensive line. And then maybe after that, defensive line. And after that, they might pick a defensive lineman. But it does allow you to not have a gaping hole at linebacker that you're filling with certain things. It allows you to have some continuity. I get all the reasons. I just have a hard time getting past the clear limitations that get exposed several times, pretty much every game, sometimes more, sometimes less.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I'm happy for him. That's generational wealth, man. Good for him. He's worked hard, gotten paid, done everything they've asked him to do. It's not the route I would have gone. Which, on a side note, good for Turk Wharton, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
3 years, $54 million, 30 guaranteed to Carolina, by the way.
That is, man, guys get paid for upside. It's an incredible thing, and I hope he goes and crushes it. So with Bolton, once Reed was going, this was always going to happen.
Can I make one comment?
Sure.
Josh, do you know exactly how much money Nick Bolton makes over this player that I've always been constantly admired or constantly annoyed or constantly has made him to be in my podcast torture chamber?
How much more money is he making than Matt Milano? I don't know.
Just over $100,000.
Great. They gave Matt Milano the Matt Milano deal.
Yep. And the Chiefs believe Nick Bolton is better than Matt Milano.
I said what I said.
You know, just a couple 100,000, just a little bit. But Matt Milano was near the top. Now he's out of the top 5 because of Nick Bolton.
Should we have made fun of a lower paid linebacker this whole time? And maybe we could have driven that number down.
They told me Matt Milano was a Hall of Famer, and he don't make as much as Nick Bolton.
Seth, it hurts me to watch you.
I got him.
It hurts me to watch you, Seth, because you have really gone from being full of rage before this deal happened to now just kind of going out sad.
Hey.
So here's where I'm at on the Nick Bolton deal, okay? Thank you, Tucker. I don't like treating a good but not great linebacker as a necessary utility bill in a good but not great defense where he is one of the players that you have to cover for, so good offenses don't pick on him. I also don't like the idea that they would have moved on from Bolton if Ronnie Stanley would have become available, because I need you to either tell me
he's either necessary or he's not.
Right. Is he a vital? What I would have said was, is he a vital must-have piece to keep your defense together? Or is he a luxury that you can afford to splurge on if you're saving $10 million at left tackle? That answer matters. Because if he's the former, I disagree, but I understand that Drew Tranquill seemed to take a step back last year. Leo's not a Mike. So that's a team-building issue, if that's why you have to pay your starting Mike, because you don't have anybody else that can meet that level. But whatever. If he's vital, I disagree, but I hear you. If he's a luxury, that's not where I would use my couch cushion money on a roster that has plenty of holes in it right now. So again, is he a vital piece of the defense they can't live without? If so, you should have signed him when you signed Creed Humphrey, because you knew Creed Humphrey was a vital piece of what you've built. You signed him a year early and you had all that controlled. the way the Chiefs waited on Nick Bolton makes me think they were still making up their mind. And waiting until the buzzer to do that for him and Trey Smith kind of bugs me. Here's the upshot for me. It is a 2-year, $30 million contract.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Nick Bolton is young, and Nick Bolton, I don't think Nick Bolton's going to get any sprier, but I also don't think he's going to turn into Anthony Hitchens over the next 2 years. So you have him on this deal that is a 2-year deal with a 3rd-year team option for another $15 million. The structure of this deal is good for me. The structure is good. The amount of money for that player, I wouldn't have done. That's how I can give a little bit of credit to the front office while kind of disagreeing with the premise, I think.
Love it. We're going to get there. We're going to do this, Josh.
Speaking of getting there and wanting to do it, you ready to talk about Xavier Worthy, Seth?
Yes, I'm ready to talk about Xavier Worthy.
Since the last time, please correct any of these terms as you need to when I throw it back to you here, Seth. But since the last episode of Only Weird Games, Xavier Worthy was arrested, booked, and released. And then we waited, and then we got a statement from lawyers, and then the charges not even were dropped. They did not pursue charges against Xavier Worthy. I will save us all a little bit of the time in the details, where if you want to go read one of the news stories as it was all popping out, I think The Athletic had one. There's a million places I'm sure you can get some of the details there of the circumstances of Worthy's arrest, and then a very quick sort of dismissal of the whole deal. Seth, anything that you think is important to note in how this went, and then what you see from what appears to be a very quick kind of clearing of Xavier Worthy's at least original accusations?
So without taking too much time, because I ended up doing like a 15-minute monologue about how the charging process works on Breaking News Team.
Still available, by the way, if you do want to hear that. It's in the same podcast feed. You listen to this show on the same YouTube channel. You watch this show. So if you want to go catch that, still available.
Right. So basically, the long and short of it is this. The way it works, generally speaking, when someone is arrested over the weekend, especially on potential charges of a domestic, is the prosecuting attorney is called and asked to review the probable cause statement and makes a decision about whether to hold them over the weekend. Basically, they're approving the probable cause. That's almost always approved. Now, most people don't have attorneys that are already working for them and getting what's referred to as exculpatory information, which, just means this is information that would lean towards you didn't do it. Most people don't have that provided over the weekend. Worthy's in a position to where he apparently was, based on his lawyer's statement and the things that we saw happen. If you check my timeline, you'll see a tweet thread that I kind of went through the process. Here's what I would say. I have declined charges, would be the way to frame it. This quickly, probably a dozen times or so in 5 years, give or take. Like in the last year, probably 2 or 3 times. And the reason that that's happened in my case is when I've done that, and keep in mind, this is not a dispositive statement on why another prosecutor in another jurisdiction did what they did. The reason I would do this would not be because I don't think I have probable cause. Because if you don't have probable cause, you just cut them loose, right? Then you keep the investigation open and you treat it as an under review.
Yes.
Declining charges says, I don't think this happened. And that's kind of where we're at. They made a decision very quickly to decline charges. And yes, they have language in the letter that, if any further information comes available, that's standard. That's boilerplate in every case, because when you decline charges, it's without prejudice, meaning that you can come back and charge something. So that's in every no charge letter that I've ever sent, is that language. So what I take from that, based on 11 years of experience as an attorney, 6 or 7 of them as a prosecutor, is that the prosecutor reviewed it and didn't think that it happened, is my best guess. It's an educated guess. There might be more stuff going on beneath the surface there, but and let me just tell you, as a prosecutor, well, the police, the Chiefs came in there and paid a bill. No one is willing to lose their career over a single case. No one is willing to get disbarred over a single case. They reviewed the evidence, and whatever they had, they believed that this didn't happen. I've had that happen a few times. I just hope that Worthy is able to kind of move on with his life. I hope the other party is able to move on with her life, and they just maybe stay away from each other. And as a guy who's been prosecuting domestic violence stuff for like 5 years, please stay away from each other. just everyone go move on with their lives. So that's a little bit of information there.
I mean, Nate, we got like the initial, Chiefs are looking into it, and now we're here now. I think this is I don't want to be dismissive of it because
Right.
nothing about it is worthy of, no pun intended, is worthy of being dismissive about it. But as far as I could tell, there's nothing else to wait on here. We got a relative kind of like dust off your hands and wait for things to play out. That got dismissed or declined very quickly, and I imagine, Nate, the Chiefs have no interest in needing to do anything else here.
No.
Very good. It would have been super weird for us to not talk about it, but the story kind of ran through the cycle before we had another podcast.
The Shield breathed a sigh of relief. The Shield was like, "Oh man, we gotta." Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
Thought I was going to Texas. Turns out I'm not.
Moving on.
Yep. A weird one, a rare one in the way that it moved as quickly as it did, but when in doubt, waiting a few minutes, generally good. And in this instance, we had a totally, I don't know. Again, I don't know anything more than you do, but we had a pretty settled version of the story by the time we got to Tuesday. So I'm at least grateful for that. Other quick pieces of news we'll speed round through, and then again we'll spend more time on these deals as we have more opportunities to. Hollywood Brown is back on a very, very similar deal to the one he signed last year. Tershawn Wharton of Carolina mentioned that. James Winchester got a first day deal reporting. Good for the long snapping community. Appreciate that. Cole Christensen back. Robert Tonyan back. Justin Watson to the Houston Texans on day one. Look, you get Laramie Tunsil out of there. Get Justin Watson in. That was the Houston plan supposedly. But the second move for the Chiefs of new incomers was Elijah Mitchell, another 49er, another sort of backup 49er. Of course, he's dealt with a ton of injuries throughout his career. But it's a $3.5 million big number. We don't have incentives. We don't have guarantees. I have not found any reporting on what's guaranteed there. Look, this could be Irv Smith. This could be Ronald Jones. I also think if he's healthy and fast, he'd be a really interesting complement to Isaiah Pacheco.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, this will draft somebody. Nate, do you have a feel for what the plan is for Elijah Mitchell?
It would be great if he made the roster because that means he will have gotten through the offseason training program and training camp healthy. He could definitely work within this offense because he's got the speed and the athleticism and the hands, particularly the hands, to make this work as a rotational player in the backfield. I'm not sure. Some people have suggested maybe he'd be the third down back. Again, I would like to see it over, the offseason program and obviously training camp. But there's obviously a situation there with Samaje Perine going back to the Cincinnati Bengals. So,
I forgot to write that one down.
Maybe in a ideal world, you have Isaiah Pacheco, Elijah Mitchell, you have Kareem Hunt, and you have a rookie that you drafted in the second to third round of the NFL draft. So
you just forgot Carson Steele, but that's okay.
He's not a running back, Josh. He's a fullback.
You just forgot Carson Steele, but I'm not going to take it personally.
I never forget the Gator. Gator don't play. Okay,
I don't want to hold your feet to the fire about it. Carson Steele.
Gator don't play. Okay, I know where he is on the roster. Hey, speaking of which, didn't the fullback get paid today?
Oh, did Juszczyk get picked up? God, so much has happened that I don't know.
So much is happening, kids.
Ricard got paid by the
Ricard got paid, and Juszczyk is available. Okay, got it. I just the Ricard thing too.
Hey, if you make this work, baby, you can get that. You can get them checks too now.
But not from here.
Carson Steele's on the team, guys. I want to make that very clear. But in terms of traditional running backs, you would like to have four.
What's untraditional about him?
He doesn't seem quite as athletic, Josh. Like,
it's weird. I think he's a really impressive athlete.
Yeah.
Kind of a Leo Chanel type.
For his situation,
Yeah.
Given his obvious disadvantages.
He should have picked a number in the 20s or 30s.
I really want him to be Mike Allstott, okay? But he's got to grow into it. Mike Allstott didn't just
I wanted Deneric Prince to be Mike Allstott,
and blaze the league, okay?
Yeah, but Deneric Prince couldn't.
Hey, son, can you?
I disagree.
Look, I know you've been looking at that position in the playbook. Great job, son. You've been in the playbook all year. I know your sister's about to get ready for her wedding. We need you to take 18 carries for her son, and please don't fumble, please. And guess what? He did it. Hey, can you be effective in short yardage? He did it. Hey, can you catch the ball occasionally? He did it. Carson Steele's on the team, kids, but you would also like to have regular Peyton Hillis. You would like to you would like to have
Madden
Hillis.
cover athlete running back Peyton Hillis.
Yes, you would like to
I
have
don't know, but your
Peyton
hateful
Hillis
rhetoric,
and
Nate.
4 running backs, like a traditional team going into training camp. Instead, they went to the training camp with 2 running backs, and one of them was like, I got some issues I got to clear up, which, understandably, we only have 1 running back. Guys, they went to the Super Bowl with 1 running back on their opening day initial 53 roster. It's nuts that they went to the Super Bowl. And by the way, the best rusher was on the couch. So, do a solid by Kareem. Bring him back for a year deal. Obviously, you got Elijah. You're going to draft someone, the assumption is. And then you have Pacheco, getting further recovered from his own injury.
You
that
want them to
hampered
keep
him
4 running backs and a fullback?
for training camp.
Oh,
Elijah, there's no guarantee that
I might have overreacted
Thank
there
you.
a little bit. There.
Josh,
I think Kareem Hunt, you know what I think Kareem Hunt should do? Doesn't have the burst anymore. I think he should play fullback.
all I'm saying is it would be a great thing for them to have an actual running back group for training camp, unlike the group that I watched last year, okay? Where, God bless his heart, at one point in time, Louis Reese Emmett was your 3rd running back.
Oh, why can't he be the
Dude,
fullback? He
do
passes
not-
your test.
Don't ever forget that, kids, because I won't.
It's
I
the
love
Family
my boy.
Guy meme all over the place.
Yeah,
Fullback.
running back,
I don't know what's in the middle. Tight end. Like,
edge, pass rusher.
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
gonna be our,
Yeah.
hey, it's gonna be our
there's Trey
3rd down
Hendrickson
back,
and,
a guy
like,
from
one or two.
Wales. That's who it's gonna be.
Seth, quick, give me one thing you want the Chiefs to do before Thursday's show. You get all day, all rest of the day today, all day tomorrow, a little bit of Thursday. What's the next thing you want to see the Chiefs do?
I want to see them sign Trey Smith to a long-term deal,
Yep.
and I want them to sign Tyler Lockett as a. We want.
Ooh.
I like their receiver room, and Lockett's skill set is redundant, but there's not like an X out there, and
Right.
so get it to where, in case Rasheed is suspended, in case Brown isn't quite what you're hoping, in case this happens, that happens, an injury, whatever. Let's be 4 deep at wide receivers that we like. But instead, what they're going to do is just keep the franchise tag on Smith and bring back Juju Smith-Schuster. So
I think Juju's going to happen. I said that earlier. I think the Juju signing is about time.
that is the most guaranteed thing
on.
in the history of time. They're
Justin
going to
Watson leaving on day 1 might as well have given Juju number 9 back. Like it instant.
It's over.
They also
It is-
Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, and I want you to answer the same question. What's happening next? And then a real brief check-in on your confidence level on the Trey Smith extension. But they also have to do the Mahomes restructure tomorrow, right?
Yes. Pretty much they have to do it by tomorrow. Again, as I said earlier in the show, there's some things that they can do tomorrow and Thursday to be cap compliant. The Joe Tooney trade will come official, obviously because it'll be the start of a new league year. All right, Mike G says, Nate, leave us some D-line nuggies. Okay.
Oh, yes. Also, please, for the love of God, sign a defensive tackle. Anyone, any defensive tackle will
Derek
do.
Nottie and Mike Pennell will be right here. Seth, be patient.
Yeah, I think Mike Pennell could happen. I'm not sure about Derek Nottie. I haven't really heard anything about him, so
You don't
I'll
need.
try to circle back. Now, as
Why
I've
would
told you before, the man that I am most interested in this free agency class was Charles Omenihu. And kids,
Bring him back.
it just didn't hit the way we wanted it to hit. Okay, it just didn't happen. So my understanding as of now, of course, some things could change. We are also entering desperation mode of free agency before we get back to normal free agency. That'll be next week, right? As we enter from phase 1, which was yesterday, to phase 2, which is today, which is holy smokes, we're desperate. Day 3, i.e., hey, Aaron, make a freaking decision already. So Russell Wilson knows where he's gonna live next year. So as we enter desperation mode,
If my
tonight,
life ever
tomorrow,
hinges on Aaron Rodgers' decision making, I need one of you to drive to my house and kill me.
that's Russell Wilson right now. Hey, what are you gonna do, man? Where am I gonna live next season? Do something. So as we
Seth, you haven't even tased me for 5 years. That's a soft, I'll do it from you.
Yeah, I'm all talk.
as we enter desperation mode, which could lead to something unforeseen, but That's why we're in desperation mode right now. Teams are not super duper high on giving Mr. Charles Omenihu a multi-year deal, because if so, that would have already happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now that could change, but I'm just telling you as of right now. So he's reluctantly, probably as of right now, being told he's got to do yet again another 1-year prove-it deal, because he does not have a full year of showing how he can be consistently, because of the obvious suspension in relation to violation of the league's personal conduct policy, and because of the ACL. Terrible timing on the ACL. Nothing you can do about that. Played well when he came back. Thank goodness he's healthy. He will be, we assume, more healthy this upcoming season. So that's what you're advocating for the player here. But the team is like, I don't know if I can give a multi-year deal for someone who, again, has not shown it consistently for a full season, 16, 17, 15 games, whatever. So you know what that means, kids. If I just informed you of all that, it's time to come home.
Yes.
It's time to come back home for another 1-year deal.
Yep.
And get as many incentives as you can. See if you can maximize it. If you have an 8, 9, 10 sack season in a 15, 16, 17 game sample, then obviously you can cash in next year. But the chances of him cashing in now are unfortunately dwindling. He is still relatively young. He still has the injury. But you fit the system. Joe Cullen wants you back. So does Chris Jones.
You're playing next to Chris Jones.
So does C. Spagnuolo.
There's nowhere else to maximize your value by playing in prime time, going into the playoffs. You're going to be very clearly seen.
It's time to come home. Sometimes you got to look your brother in the eye and say, "Look, bud,
I'm ready to back up Mike Dana again."
It's not time. It's not time. It's just not. It's sadly, it's not the right time. Come on home. We'll get him next year. And I don't know what that contract looks like, but I also know Leonard Floyd just got 10 years on a 1-year deal.
And if I were Charles Omenihu, I'd be irate about that. I'd be like, I'm better than him, and you are. Charles Omenihu, you are better than Leonard Floyd.
Hey, we all done been through it, baby. We all done said, hey,
we're all better than Leonard Floyd.
We've all felt like we demonstrated our worth, and then we got told to do it again.
And then we watched someone handed money to Leonard Floyd. I don't know why I'm sticking on that. I'm sorry.
Because he got cut today and he immediately got $10 million.
No, we all have our Leonard Floyd. Seth is mine.
Come on home, man.